Hey, this is Fred from Cowboy Mouth, and you are listening to The Tippy Joe Show. Are you with me?
Hey guys, it's Tippy of The Tippy Joe Show, and you're getting ready to watch my interview with Fred LeBlanc of Cowboy Mouth. Their show, November 8th at the Old Rock House, is going to be absolutely incredible, and tickets are still available, so be sure to grab yours. Well, let's get into it. How are you doing today, Fred?
Can't really complain. No real point.
Yeah, true. Complaining doesn't really get you anywhere, so I like that.
Doesn't really get you anywhere. Just gotta, if there's anything I've learned in the 108 years I've been alive, is that
You look
every
great
day
for
just,
your age.
well, thank you very much. It's a specific skin cream I use.
You'll just have to let us know.
No, exactly. No, it's just, I learned a long time ago, you just got to grab the bull by the balls every single day. And as I always tell my kids, swing for the fences, baby.
I love it.
If you're going to do something, do it well,
Absolutely, absolutely. I would love to know where the name Cowboy Mouth originated from.
Cowboy Mouth, the name is, it's the name of a play by Sam Shepard, a playwright who's also an actor, and he passed a few years back. It was honestly, people always ask me the significance of the name, and there really is none, at least not when we came up with the name, because the band had gotten together pretty quickly, and being the enterprising young man I was and still am, we already had shows lined up without a band name. So it was the only name we all didn't hate. We didn't love it, but it was the only one everybody didn't hate. And we literally had to play a show in 2 days after just getting the band together. Everything fell together really fast. And so it was the only thing that really we could all somewhat agree on at the time. And my thinking at the time was, well, okay, well, we'll do this show and we'll come up with something better. But then it just kind of stuck. But then there's a passage in the actual play, which to this day I've never read. There's one of the characters is asking another character what the term Cowboy Mouth means, or the idea of it, and the last line of the play as well. It means escape, and so we actually used that for an album title on one of our independent albums back in the '90s. So it had just kind of turned into a thing where I was like, being the front guy, you just kind of have to figure out ways to engage the audience in between songs instead of just like, this is a song we did on an album. I had to kind of create this personality, which was kind of how I am anyway, just used it in a broader context. And so one day, the name Cowboy Mouth is very vowel alliterative. I don't know what that terminology was. It rhymes, Cowboy Mouth. And there's a certain kind of rhythm there. And being the drummer, being the front man, it just popped in my head, okay, who are you watching tonight? Cowboy. The name of the band is Cowboy. And it just turned into this thing. It's while I still am not very fond of the name because the main question I've been asked by people who never saw it, oh, y'all are a country band? It's like, no, well, a little, but no, it's a rock band, but So
yeah, I could see how that could be a little misleading.
It's a little misleading, but it stuck, and people seem to like it. So there you
go. Who could you guys have been?
Oh, I don't know, man. We came up with so many names. That list is long gone. The Impediments, the Squirrel Zippers. I have no idea.
The Squirrel Zippers. That's a good one too. I like it. Cowboy Mouth. I'm glad you chose that one.
I'm literally just popping them off my head, so I don't remember any of them. It was a long time ago.
I gotcha. Now, with Fault Lines just coming out in March, how do you feel the songwriting reflects the moments in your lives versus early albums? Let me start over because that was a terrible question.
I didn't understand.
Let me start over. I'm
sorry.
That's all right. Okay, 1 second. Sorry. All right, we're just going to skip that one because I don't like that question. All right, here we go. Your live shows, you say you try to turn each performance into a Mardi Gras style celebration. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, being from New Orleans, we have a certain perspective on Mardi Gras that's probably a little unique in that everybody in New Orleans who grew up there and some people who, moved there later on in life, well, we all have a different rhythm. We all kind of move differently. We dance differently. We hear things differently. My theory is that's mostly because of the Mardi Gras parades, because you're exposed to them pretty much in the womb, and the power of a big bass drum and a marching band just right in your face on a repeated basis. Especially in my youth, I noticed it had a really profound effect on me, and that's kind of where that comes from. But Mardi Gras is a time also to let go of troubles, let go of worries, let go of any BS that's bringing you down, and just celebrate simply for the pure joy of celebrating. And that's what I kind of try to turn every Cowboy Mouth show into. And thankfully, the guys have always been supportive about that, which is good. But using Mardi Gras as kind of a metaphor for, once again, escape, release, just letting go. This world is designed to keep everybody afraid and everybody clenched up, everybody tense, and we're just getting bombarded with such crap from all sides. And a Cowboy Mouth show is a place you can come to and just kind of go, and just let go of your troubles and your worries. And that was kind of how I designed it when I put the band together. And so it's been kind of a celebration, a release, and a letting go of troubles and worries. And that's what it has kind of in parallel with the Mardi Gras experience. There's some people who want to drink and raise hell at our shows. Great. And if you don't want to, great. That's, the important thing is that when you leave a Cowboy Mouth show, you leave feeling better and like there's been some sort of relief or release. We had this. I told the story a million times, but a few years back, I say a few years back, probably more like 10 now. We played a show in the South somewhere, and this really like tall, good old boy came up to me. He's like, "Man, I love you guys, man. I love your shows, man. Y'all like a gospel tent revival without the religion." And I was like, "Oh, well, there you go. That works."
Yeah, that's a good terminology.
It works.
All that sound, all that energy, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. It's just the energy. I mean, when I'm on stage, it's just, especially lately, now that, because when you're we were dealing with major label stuff and all that stuff in the 90s and 2000s, and all that stuff is just a lot of pressure. Oh, you got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this. Oh, yeah. And you spend so much of your time just reacting. And now that, we're not in that zeitgeist anymore, you can kind of be a little more, you can create with a little more intent. You can be with a little more intent, which is nice, and I like that end of it a lot more now because I'm a lot more aware, and I think we all are a lot more aware of the vibe we put out and how that affects people that come see us or hear us or anything like that. So
now the music landscape has changed drastically since you guys started to now.
Yeah.
Tell me your experience in this new social media driven world. How has that affected the band and how you guys put things out?
Well, we're trying to figure things out right now. We just put out the covers album.
Yeah.
Called Cover Your Ass. I'm very proud of it. And, before we would have printed up all kinds of CDs and kind of sold them basically at shows and all that stuff. But now it's just a streaming world. People can just access it. And while there is a monetary exchange, it's not really one-to-one. So, I mean, it's great for the customer, it's great for the consumer, but as far as the musician, kind of sucks because you're not, money has become kind of a financial loss leader, I mean, not money. I'm sorry. Can you cut that out? Music has become a financial loss leader, and, you just got to deal with the reality. It's, when we first signed with major labels, I kind of told myself, okay, well, from now on, you can't complain about getting bitten if you're going to jump in the water with these sharks, Yeah. And so you just got to deal with it. And that's kind of what we're doing. Trying to find new ways to be creative, trying to figure out what the competition is going to be. The landscape changed so much. It's like we first put out material and we put it out on cassettes, because it was cheap. They were cheap and easy to make, and we could actually print them, make them ourselves with a double, cassette player, sell them for $5, and that was gas money. Now it's, we've been through the whole major label thing, and now we're back kind of doing it at DIY. And I like that because there's a lot more control to it. It's a little more difficult to get your voice heard in the mass media matrix, but that's okay. It's neither here nor there. The main thing that Cowboy Mouth has been about for all the time we've been together is putting across a positive vibe. Not that we're like up with people or, everything's great. No, some things suck. Right now, people are scared, they're financially, they're hard hit, it's like, and, I personally think that'll change, but it hasn't hit the ground level yet. We don't really bring politics or anything like that into what we do, mostly because everybody in the band has different viewpoints. And, that's just the surest way to cut your audience in half. People don't want to think about heavy things like that when they come to a rock and roll show. They want to just watch the show or dance and or drink and just have a good time, And so coming to a Cowboy Mouth show, that's pretty much always has been, that's pretty much, how do I put this? That's always pretty much been our main bread and butter. It's like, and honestly, performing is the only thing that couldn't be stolen from us. So there you go. So, and I'm not trying to sound like a victim. It's just the reality of the business. Everything changes over time. It was like when Napster came in, it didn't really affect us because the record labels weren't paying us anyway. So it got our music out. So I really wasn't like, this isn't a big deal. But
that's
then
a good way to look about that. I never really thought about that.
Yeah. Now I can understand.
LimeWire and Napster.
Yeah, I can understand a band like Metallica being upset about it because it definitely put a huge dent in their bottom line that they probably felt. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just didn't really. I tried to look at it kind of in saying, okay, what are the benefits? What are the pros? What are the cons? What do they outweigh each other? And then like a few years later when Apple Music or iTunes became prevalent, all of a sudden, my competition wasn't Sister Hazel or Better Than Ezra for the clubs. My competition was Styx and Uriah Heep, and things like that. All these bands that had to get back together because they had they had financial obligations that they couldn't meet anymore. So, it's you just learn. And now with the streaming services, it's monetarily there's not as much reward. But if I was in this for money or fame or notoriety, I would have quit a long time ago. I do this because I love it, and I also do it because I think our audience seems to get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
If I wasn't doing, if we weren't doing something that I thought was productive, then, we would have stopped a while ago, because there's easier ways to make a living. But, maybe not these days, but over time there has been. So.
With the new album, Cover Your Ass, your covers album, what I'd love to know is how did you guys go about choosing the songs?
There was really no big process.
Did everybody kind of choose a couple here and there, or?
No. It really wasn't. I hate to sound flippant or anything, but there really wasn't that much of a thought process. We had been playing the replacement song "Can't Hardly Wait" live, simply because it was just easy and it's fun and everybody liked the song. I'd gone on a thing. This is before lockdown, a couple of years before the show, where what I would do is just to kind of throw everything in the air. I'd turn to the band and say, okay, we're going to play this song. Do you know it? And they'd go, no. It's like, all right, well, better figure it out. We're
going to struggle through it.
Yeah, just go through it. And it created a lot of spontaneity. It pulled everybody out of their comfort zone. Because if you play the same show over and over, it's easy to just kind of check out mentally,
Yeah.
And I felt like I was doing that at the time. Not that the shows weren't any good. I mean, because we're still very, very present in the moment. But it seemed like, I needed everybody to kind of be more on the same page in terms of creativity, and that brought something to it. And then I was trying. John and I were talking. John Griffith, the guitar player who's been in with me since day one. I was trying to get him to learn "The Real Me" by The Who, because he would sing it at sound check, and he would play it the right way he remembered it. But that song's very tricky. It sounds simple, but it's not. And you have to work out an arrangement in order for it to work. Some songs you can just throw it together and play and everybody gets together. But that song is it's very different than it sounds easier than it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'd been talking about this and singing it at sound check. And I said, let's get an arrangement. Let's do this. This is good. Your voice sounds great on it. Why don't we just figure out an arrangement and do it? Take the time to do it. He goes, dude, we should do a covers album. And at that moment I was like, well, I can't. It wasn't really why as much as why not. It's like, okay, yeah. Well, we play these songs well. We give most of them a really unique spin. And if nothing else, it'd be fun. If nothing else, it'd be fun. And honestly, if it's not fun, then it's really not worth doing. At this stage of the game, we got nothing to prove to nobody. So let's just have fun. Let's pull this out. And the song selection wasn't really some grand scheme. It was like, what do we like? What do we want to do? And John and I had thrown some ideas around. I had always wanted to do like a rockabilly punk rock version of My Way. I'm going to Be a Wheel Someday, the Fats Domino song we do on there. We've been playing pretty much since the band started. There's a country song called Till I Gain Control Again. It's an old Crystal Gale, Rodney Crowell song. John used to sing that when we were touring all the time in the bus. I just hear him singing it on his guitar. I was like, that sounds really good. And I brought that up. He's like, sure. And let's see. I'd had a couple of tracks laying around that I had the band finish. Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves and Perfect Circle by REM, the Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves by Cher. I figured, let's put these on the album too. Let's make it from an EP to an album, put 10 songs. And John had the idea to do Fat Bottom Girls, and I was like, I don't want to do that song. That's not really one of the strongest Queen songs. It's like, yeah, but I want to do it with bluegrass. And I was like, that's interesting. And so we did it. It's actually turned into a fun song live too. And we did City by a River, kind of an obscure hootie track. Those guys have been great to us all since, the day we got together, because we've been old friends. And it was kind of like our way of saying, hey, thanks for everything, so.
Yeah. Now,
and and once we got that list of songs and started working them, I was like, this looks balanced. This looks, because we could have stayed there for months going, oh, I love this song. We could do this song. We could do that song. But, it's like, no, this is balanced. This is good. This works. In and of itself, it's a strong album. Don't push it too far. So there we were.
Love it. Now, when you guys are playing covers live, it's so easy to put your own spin on things in a live setting where you guys are kind of just riffing off of each other, making it your own. Whatever sound comes out, just comes out of you guys. And that's awesome. Did you guys feel any pressure whatsoever to kind of pay homage to the originals when you were doing your covers? Or were you guys like, hey, going full in, let's do it our own way?
If you're not doing it your own way, there are some songs you can't, add too much of a spin to. Otherwise, it won't be recognizable and it won't be effective.
Right.
Like, our version of The Real Me by The Who, it's in a different key. It's faster. Yeah. We made the arrangement a little more sparse, but that's because, we have two guitar players. There's a horn section on there. And I wanted the recording to really focus on the power of John's voice, and he delivered, he hit it out of the park. And so there's that element to it. Something different that we did, like Can't Hardly Wait by The Replacements. It's funny, everybody knows the version that came out on the late 80s album Pleased to Meet Me, which is very much, it's very poppy. It's very poppy and very smooth. But they had had that song laying around for years, and when they first had learned it, it was really rocking, like, and it was really fast and kind of punky. And I'd heard it on a bootleg cassette, and it was before the lyrics were written. So the lead singer, Paul Westerberg, was just kind of mumbling certain words he had, but it was so powerful. And this was years before the other one came out, and it was just so powerful. And all the released versions, while they're great, I thought they were missing that initial power, and I was like, I want to play it this way. So that's why that was. Every song has its different. Every song has its different origin as far as the arrangement goes. But that one was pretty. That one was pretty fun.
Yeah. Now, music, when you guys are creating music, are you pulling from your personal lives to kind of put into your songs?
Oh, in our own songs?
Yeah, like with fault
Um,
lines.
yeah, I can only speak for myself, but I do write the lion's share of original stuff. Yeah, I mean, my songs, my whole song catalog is kind of like a diary.
Sure.
You know,
Well, you've got storytellers and then you've got diaries, you know. Sometimes people just write for the sake of writing, and sometimes people
yeah,
write from personal experience.
yeah. Like I have some songs that I've written that have absolutely nothing to do with reality
Yeah.
in terms of my life. But then other songs, I can tell you this was about this at this time, at this point, that point. Like we had a recent single, a couple of recent singles. One of them was called Alternate Reality, and it's about all the craziness of life during that moment, and just once again wanting to escape. It's like, I would just want to get in my car and drive fast and just feel the power of driving fast because I feel like I'm living in an alternate reality. There's another song called Mardi Gras State of Mind that I wrote. I actually wrote that during lockdown when I was hoping that they'd stop all the foolishness so we could have Mardi Gras again. I was praying to the Mardi Gras gods, please, Mardi Gras gods, please let us have Mardi Gras again, and they did, so it worked out. But it's every song to a certain extent is a diary entry, whether it's true or not. It may be an expression of an emotion
Sure.
as opposed to saying a tangible event. But
Sure. Nice. And are you writing the music by yourself, or is everybody collectively coming together when you're writing songs?
I write the main song. Like I tend to be kind of solo in that way of just like presenting the main song, and I'll present like a basic arrangement and say I hear it this way or that way. Or sometimes when we're recording, I'll actually record a template. Put like bass drums and maybe some percussion down, maybe a couple of acoustic guitars, and say, okay, this is kind of what I'm feeling, and then have everybody drop in on that. That was kind of how I did a lot of the songs that we did on Cover Your Ass. I would create like Pro Tools templates and say, all right, this is kind of where I'm seeing it's going. The good thing with like using computer software to create recordings is that you can pretty much do anything. You can edit, you could change keys, you can do any anything you can imagine you can pretty much do. So it's not like everything's locked in. Like if I want, we had a single a while back called A Better Time, and I thought it was really strong, and we recorded it and everything like that. And a buddy of mine whose opinion I trust listened to it. It's like, hey man, that's a really good song. Doesn't need that bridge though. I was like, son of a right. And normally I'd have to, back in the old days, I'd have to go recut the whole thing and stuff. But this way I could just put it on my template. Chop, chop. See ya. So it's good, Where'd you get the name Tippy Joe?
So Joe is my co-host. I'm Tippy. So
Okay.
it's the Tippy Joe Show because we host together.
Ah,
The name Tippy I got from a little kid way back in the day when I was a teenager. The kid couldn't say Tiffany and it came out Tippy, and then it just stuck, and just
that's
that's
kind of cool.
thanks. I
That's
appreciate
kind of cool.
that. All right, with the covers album, Cover Your Ass, did you bring any guest musicians or do anything particularly experimental in the studio?
Particularly experimental, but we did bring a lot of extra musicians on the Real Me. We have the Bonorama horns out of New Orleans. They're the horn section. They did a great job. On Till I Gain Control Again, we had a really wonderful pedal steel player by the name of Dwight Breland out in New Orleans, and he had that perfect texture and color that was just spectacular. Let's see, on Fat Bottom Girls, we had Brendan Anthony, who used to play fiddle with Pat Green out of Texas, and he ran like the Governor's Coalition or something like that of Texas music for a long time. I call him Mr. Texas or the King of Texas. He did a great job on the fiddle. We've used him on other stuff. On Just Another Night, which is a song we had a girl by the name of Belle Fine, who is a friend of my wife's law partner's daughter, and she goes to school at OKC in the theater department. She just has an amazing voice. Her and my wife got together and did backups on that. And they did a wonderful job. They were our white girl gospel chorus, and I doubled and tripled each of them, on there. So instead of two girls, it sounds like six. And they did a great job. And Mark Bryan from Hootie actually played the solos on City by the River. So
That's beautiful. I love collaborations. I love seeing
it's
art
fun.
work together. Yeah,
It's
that's
fun.
neat.
It's fun.
Yeah. And often I find whenever you bring two artists together that aren't from necessarily the same world, it just makes the most beautiful sounds. So I
Yeah,
think
it
that's
does.
super awesome that you bring other people in with that.
I try to. I mean, there's definitely a vision at play, and you kind of want to see it through. So when you bring people in, you want people who can help you expand upon that. There's a difference kind of thing when somebody comes in and tries to make it their own and takes it in a different direction.
Sure.
Which is fine as well if you're kind of keeping your mind open to that. But like a lot of these songs, I had pretty strict vision of how I wanted it. Not that I wasn't open to different ideas, but it's just like, this is the good starting point. Let's kind of stay in this lane a little bit. I wanted it to be a rock album.
Sure. Yeah. Now let's take a little peek behind the curtain. You guys focus heavily on live performances and you guys give it all that you've got. And I can imagine that can be extremely tiring. Do you guys have any like pre-show rituals that you do to kind of amp up that energy so you can give your fans what they're looking for?
We've always been kind of an energetic band. I
Yeah.
mean, I've learned over the years the best way to get the best out of people is just kind of let them be who they are, and like when you're not on stage, give them the space to be who they are, and on stage as well. It'd be easy for me to kind of swallow up, all the air, being the front guy, but I try not to do that. Because I think it's more interesting when there's more than one person to look at.
Yeah.
And no matter who is, the front person and how intriguing they can be, it's 2 hours. You can get pretty damn bored watching the same guy all the time. I always like bands that have different people to look out. So I look at. So I encourage everybody on stage to give their best. I'm not asking them to be a certain way. Do what's right to you. Perform what's right for you, and wear what you want. Be who you are, but just be the best you that you can be in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a certain kind of energy that brings, that's very unique and very powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you guys have been together since the 90s, which is incredible. Not many bands can say that they've all stuck together. What is the secret to a long life as a band?
Well, yeah, you understand, things change over
Yeah.
time. The things you want in your 20s aren't the things you want in your 40s.
Yeah.
Plus, we've been through all sorts of landscapes. There's been ups, there's been downs, there's been ups and downs. And I mean, we've never had like, a straight like rocket propulsion thing. And even to this day, there's ups and downs, ups and downs, up and downs. You could, even back when we were touring in buses and had labels support, you'd pull into a town and it could be empty and you still got to do it, and nowadays, you think, okay, pull into a town, it'll be okay, but, not great, but, we're going to give our best. And you walk in and the place is sold out. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
You never know. You never
True,
know.
very true.
You never really know what you're walking into. And for me, that's the challenge, It's like, I didn't want to be like one of these guys that just lived in the studio because after a while that becomes kind of rote. And, I still really enjoy the challenge of live performance. It's still every night I learn something new every night. And I like to think that, I'm still getting better as a performer, as a musician, as a singer. The band is getting better. And it's a challenge to kind of bring your A game every single night, and it'd be easy to kind of play the victim and go, wah, I got to play another show. Wah. But, I try to keep in mind that there's millions of people, millions, literally millions on this earth that would give their left arm to do what I do. Not me specifically, but, be a musician with an audience and all that type of stuff. There's millions of people who would give their left arm to do that on my worst day. So I kind of feel like, all right, well, I've got to do the best I can. Plus, I'm getting up there in terms of years. It's like, and it's a very odd concept of getting older when all of a sudden you see everything in your life as finite. Not that it's going to end tomorrow. Not that, I'm in excellent health. I have a good attitude. I'd like to keep doing this as long as I can. But at the same time, you see kind of an end of the road, and therefore it's more important than ever to give your best. It's like Ray Charles says, play every night like it's your last, because one night you're going to be right.
That's true. That's a beautiful quote.
Yeah.
Words to live by. Always give it your best.
Always give it your best. And that's, it's funny. I was talking to my my boy the other day. Well, this was about a couple of months ago. And he was asking me about, performing and things like that and my job. And I said, well, son, I've played in front of an audience of 150,000 people. And I've also played to an audience that consisted of one person. I said, but you know what those shows have in common? He said, what, Dad? I said, at both of those shows, I kicked fucking ass. Mm-hmm. Me and my band, we kicked fucking ass, because that's what matters. I always tell young bands, it's like, look, you put a monkey in front of, you put a guitar on a monkey and put him in front of 20,000 people, it's going to be entertaining, The real challenges are when you're kind of against the grain. It's like, okay. Like we played the show recently in right outside Baton Rouge, and it was, a good paying show, and it was created for us by this radio station who's very supportive, but it was also at 11 a.m.,
Ooh, yeah.
And, so it was like, okay, the challenge is there. And, so we got up there and literally nobody was in front of the stage. Nobody. There were some people hanging back, sitting on chairs, looking at us like, you ain't from here, are you, boy?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, but by the second song, there was hundreds of people pressing the stage, just having a great time. And it kind of shows the power of what we do. I'm not really afraid to walk the high wire and fall on my face. I've done it so many times. It's kind of like, oh, well, get up, brush yourself off, go again. Yeah. So it's not really out of the realm of possibility for me to challenge the audience or to just mess with them. It's like, oh, it's so early. You guys must be tired. I tell you, we'll play the show like this. Is that good? Is that good? And they're just like, yeah. I was like, well, come on, let's do this,
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
It's fun. If it's, once again, if it's not fun, why do it?
Exactly.
Life's hard enough.
Has your musical talent rubbed off on your kid?
They've got performing abilities. I never really shoved the band or what I do on them. It's not like, hey, Dad he's a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
It's just, I've always just been dad with my kids, just like a lot of, just like most performers. And they didn't really find out about the band until like parents of friends of theirs, were fans. Like my ex-wife told me one time, it's like, I walked into a ceremony where one of my kids was like graduating like first grade or something like that. And it was my boy. And I walked in And, we were split at the time, but she noticed that I walked in just kind of oblivious, and I sat down because I was like a minute or two late. Saw all the parents, get on their iPhones and start Googling me. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, well, whatever. And, when people stop doing that, I'm in trouble. So I might as well be appreciative and, kind of
Very
enjoy
true.
it now. Yeah.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
Got four. I got two of my own and two stepkids.
Nice. Same for me.
Oh, well, you know how it is.
Yeah, I
You
do.
know how it is. You just kind of hang on.
Yeah. True story. And my kids are the same way. Like, obviously I'm just mom to them and they don't really know what I do with like the podcast or everything,
Yeah.
they don't really understand the depth of it. But I think that's just kids, they don't really
That's
care.
good, and that's that's what you want for them, because you want them to have their own experience,
Oh, of course.
You don't want it to be filtered or colored through, our experiences, because, they're going to have to live their lives, You don't want some kid who walks around thinking he's a big deal because, because of who his dad is or something like that. That's just kind of a recipe for failure. But I knew this guy once who went to high school with, no, who went to high school with the kid of some famous actor. He was very famous at the time. The kid was like, thought he couldn't get in trouble and stuff. And, and so one day, this kid was like pushing my buddy's friend around. And so finally the kid goes like, yeah, it's like yes, like, don't you know who my dad is? I sure do. Bam.
Sure do. And I don't care.
Don't really give a damn.
That's too funny.
Don't you know who I think my dad is?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Kids got to fight their own battles. They got to live their own lives, and honestly, who's going to care about any of this crap in like 50 years, really?
Right.
What else you got, Tip?
I got a couple more for you,
Shoot.
and I'll let you
I
go.
assume you'll edit this and everything.
Yes, yeah, this will be all edited, so we'll take
great.
out all the.
Yeah, feel free to chop up. However, I'm not
crazy
sensitive about my responses being, perfectly literally correct. I know I can prattle on quite a bit.
Well, you've met Chad. I believe Chad interviewed you once before, Chad Winch with The Barn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Tippy Joe Show is under the Barn Network. So Chad's like my dad, my podcast dad.
Oh, that's great. Tell him I said hey, please.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Okay.
Actually, I bring that up because he does our editing. So he'll be editing this. So you can say hi to him yourself if you'd like.
Hey, Chad, you motherfucker.
He's going to love that. What is one thing about performing that you still love just as much as the day you started?
The freedom, the release. Really, it's just that interaction between the performers and the audience, being up there with my guys. It's almost like being in a gang, Yeah. And it's just, that's still that sense of camaraderie, that sense of endless possibility, that sense of, the knowledge that, I'm kind of doing my best to put something positive out there. Don't always succeed, but you try, because that's the way of the world. Everything's connected and we're all just links in the chain, so, I've done my share of screwing up in my life, believe me. And, just trying to do the best I can and put out a good vibe in the world with, me and my band. And, that means a lot. And it's so odd because I like to think I've been reasonably successful as a musician, but I don't have money. I don't have a lot of money. I'm not like famous. Like my kids were asking me, Dad, are you famous? And it's like, well, some people think I am. Some people don't. And that's fine. Fame is not really something that is a tangible. It's based on other people's perceptions,
Right.
And so it's not real. It can be real, a real part of somebody's experience. Like if Keith Richards walked in my house right now, I'd be very impressed. But then again, my kids wouldn't care. They think, who's this scary old guy coming in, So, I mean, notoriety, it's fun. I've had it, it's like, but at the same time, it's, it's not really all it's cracked up to be. And it's just at the end of the day, it took me a while to realize that, Cowboy Mouth wasn't building a fan base. We're building a community. And those are two different things, because
Yeah.
you deal with these folks on a one-to-one level, especially the way we choose to operate, and it's just my thought process is like, okay, here we are. We're all gathered in this room. Me and my buddies. We're going to be the band tonight. We're going to play a game called Rock Show, and me and my buddies are going to be the band, and you're going to be the audience. And who knows? Next time you could be the band, and we could be the audience. It's this. There's no real dividing line in terms of, what the experience is. It's all just a giant exchange of energy, pro and con, just
Yeah.
a giant circle of energy. And the good thing about what I think we do is that it's very easy for people to enjoy us. We don't make it difficult. Musically, we're not kind of reinventing the wheel, which is fine. I remember I went to go see John Lee Hooker when I was very young, the old blues guy, right? And this is like, he'd had his heyday with hit records back in the 50s and 60s. And now he was just kind of playing clubs. And he was playing a club in New Orleans on a Tuesday night. And he was, probably the age I am now. And I was thinking, look at this old guy, And he sat on a chair, and it was just him, a bass player, and a drummer, him playing guitar. But I'm telling you, it was one of the best shows I ever saw because it was just so intense. He was just so present in the moment and there, and it was just it was great. It was stunning. And now I kind of look at what we do as kind of what he did back then. It's not in the zeitgeist of the moment. Rock and roll is kind of it's kind of antiquated musically, but I mean that's fine. I kind of look at what we do as like blues musicians in the 80s and 90s. It's an older form of music, but it's still viable in terms of communication, in terms of creativity, and in terms of reaching, a decent audience. And I kind of look at it like that, and keeping that kind of mindset of just like, okay, this is what we do. And, once again, no matter how big or small the audience, we're going to keep doing it as long as we're able.
Heck yeah. Now, over the years, has there been a place that you guys have played at that has really just been the most memorable for you guys?
I mean, I wish I could say yes, but they've all been memorable in their own ways. It's like like I said, we just played that show at Boots on the Bayou, and it was memorable because what we were able to pull off. But one of my favorite places to play in the world is a place called the Windjammer in Charleston, South Carolina. It's actually on a little island right outside of Charleston, right on the ocean. And I love that place because it's a great vibe. We always do well there. We have a great time. But then again, we played, let's see, we played a while back in Venice Beach, California. This little tiny room, I say little tiny, but it was just packed. And I knew it would be because it was right after the fires. Whenever bad things like that happen, people kind of look towards a Cowboy Mouth show to just kind of cut it loose. So we're playing this show. It's a great show. We're having packed. People are going nuts. They're just kind of letting go and screaming, dancing. It's great, right? And this kid, I say the kid, he was like 21 years old, very tall, right in the front, He was sitting there, hey, man, I need you to play that song Easy. It's like, sorry, man, it's not on the set, but we're going to be this. Yeah. And he looks at me and goes, man, I just lost my house and everything I own, and I really just want to hear Easy. And, I was like, guys, looks like we're playing Easy.
Oh, that's
It was great.
awesome.
It was great because, I write a set to flow a certain way. And you can't, we've been together we have like 15 albums out. You can't play everything every night, as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
But during lockdown, I had to, because I was doing Facebook shows, just try to keep the community interested and engaged. And I had to go back and relearn a lot of our old songs. I was like, I forgot about that. That's pretty good. Pretty good song. And so we played that song for that kid, and he just in that moment, he just looked like he needed it.
Oh.
And that's what it's all about. All the other stuff, all the shiny shit, all the noisy shit, doesn't really matter. But that's a moment that kid will take with him for the rest of his
Forever.
life.
He'll tell everybody about that moment. And
Yeah,
that
and it's and
so
it's
awesome.
not about us. It's about
Yeah.
him using what we do to create a better moment for himself. Because musicians always get that. Oh, this song did this for me, or this song did that for me, or this show did this for me, and it's like I'm always quick to say, no, we didn't do it for you. All we did was remind you that you can do it for yourself. Because that's important. Because it's easy to get the big head when people are just like, "Oh, you're so wonderful." It's like, I know I'm a doofus. I've been a doofus since day one. I'll be a doofus till the day I die, but I'm good with it.
Well, you got to be. You got to have fun.
Like I said, if it's not fun, especially nowadays, it's not worth doing. So
I agree with you. I agree with you there.
thank
All
you.
right, last question for you, bud, and then I'll let you go. If there was one piece of advice that you could give to an up and coming band to really help them out in this new landscape that you guys are experiencing as well, what would it be?
Play live. Play live as much as you can. Even if, especially when you're coming up, because you can rehearse until, you're at a fine point. Everything sounds great, but playing live puts you in an unpredictable situation. And if you can be confident in any situations, like I was telling you, I told you about my kids. It's like I've played to 150,000 people, had them right there, and I played to one person. And it's like you have to be able to give your best in any situation. And a lot of times, the odds are going to be stacked against you because unfortunately, in this life, it's always easier not to do something. The audience, unless you're somebody that they know really well, they probably don't want to be there, or they want to be somewhere else, or they'd rather not pay attention to, some lunatic sweating, going crazy on stage. You got to give them a reason to, and the only way you can do that is by having confidence in what you do, not arrogance.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of arrogant performers out there, but it's just confidence in realizing that you bring something of value, and that only comes with experience. That only comes with having done it, hundreds, thousands of times. To where, like, here's a funny story. We used to we had after Hurricane Katrina, we played the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, and it was I don't know. You might be too young to remember this, but Hurricane Katrina it just devastated New Orleans. It totally.
Listen, I appreciate the compliment. I'm 36. I definitely remember Hurricane Katrina. So
Okay. Okay, well, that's fine. But I wasn't sure if it was if you remembered it in terms of it being a prominent event or anything.
Oh yeah, massive, massive thing.
Yeah, it's a bit massive thing. So, and it devastated New Orleans for any number of reasons that I won't go into here. But it devastated New Orleans, and so the fact that 9 months later, the New Orleans Jazz Fest was able to happen again was a really big triumph to the city. It was a really big, like, okay, we can do this. Every step back, every step you take, And I'll never forget, we had this song that was sung by an old guitar player, a song called Hurricane Party. And it was a funny song. It was very popular. Hurricane Party got out of control. He uses Tootsie Rolls as a euphemism for, like, smoking marijuana. And, it's fine. The audience loved it, whatever, right? And so, but this guy, we'd all experienced certain amounts of devastation, but, this guy had lost his house, so, he was pretty beat down by the whole experience. And we were just trying to keep the band going, keep everything going, go, put your head down and just go. And so we hadn't played that song in a while because it wasn't funny anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so and we haven't played it since this day. So we're playing Jazz Fest. There's like 50,000 people. It's like, all right, New Orleans is back. We're doing good, great. And we start playing the song, and Hurricane Party. And for the first time in Jazz Fest history, all the power went out, not only on our stage, but on all of the stages, right? Oh, yeah. It was just, you're still dealing with power issues and everything like that. It's just a coincidence. But you know.
Oh, what
So,
a coincidence.
yeah. So I'm sitting there in front of 50,000 people with my thumb up my butt, you know. So we don't have any power. We'll be back when there's
Oh
power, you
my
know.
gosh.
Yeah, it's just, but you know, to their credit, the audience stuck around. And
Heck yeah.
when you're doing a festival show, you have to work within a certain time frame
Yeah.
because there's a lot of factors going on. There's other acts, there's business, there's mechanical, unions, things like that. So I had to get something that would fit in that time period, right? So the power came back on. We got on stage, and I walked up and said, like, "Okay, hurricane party, let's do it." And the guy was like, "I'm not playing that." It had freaked him out. I was like, "Oh, okay, what do we do?" Okay, so. And I just grabbed the mic, and I'd done this a few times before, just as a time fill thing. But at this moment, I was just so frustrated because I was trying to make it all work. And I grabbed a microphone and I sang "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" completely by myself.
Oh,
But I sang it with a real edge because I was just hyper and mad.
yeah.
And it was so funny because you know I had that in my wheelhouse. It's like, okay, I will do this in front of 50,000 people and it will kick ass. But the funny thing that happened was I was doing it just to fill time in. And as I was singing it, I didn't realize this, but it had been kind of a cloudy day.
Yeah.
As I was hitting the crescendos in the song, like the live part, I don't remember the song off the top of my head, which is odd because I know the part where there's a part where I hit like a high note, and right at that moment, I didn't realize this, but the clouds started to part.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the sunlight kind of hit me on stage, because I'm closing, my eyes are closed, I'm kind of into the moment, and I didn't realize that the sun started to bathe right on me, right? And I had no idea, and the crowd started going nuts. I'm like, I must be doing pretty good. Okay, cool. Finished the song, finished the set. And the next day, I didn't realize it until I read in the paper, and the clouds parted, and this was a
Oh
moment
my
for New Orleans
gosh.
coming together. It's like, I'm just trying to fill in 2 minutes, dude.
That's
So,
beautiful.
so yeah, that was but yeah, you have to be ready for literally anything. And that goes with no matter how big or small you are, because, at the end of the day, it's more important to have a genuine experience that the audience can relate to than it's just like everything has to be perfect and I have to be perfect. It's like,
Right.
sometimes the audience likes seeing when you screw up, you know?
Yeah, it humanizes you.
It's human and it's a real moment. It's like there are some nights when I'll blank out on songs that I've sung for 30 years just simply because for whatever.
Yeah.
Janny says, oh shit, what did she say? And it's just and you only get those moments by performing live when
Yeah.
you're in the lion's den. Like I said, you could practice for years and you get on stage and it's just completely different. It throws you, because it's different. If you can have that experience in as many different situations as possible, both positive and negative, you learn how to take whatever situation you're presented with and make it work for you.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
funny because we had this band at that Boots to Bayou thing, this singer, and he was a really good singer. But you could tell him and his band were kind of like intimidated in the moment because nobody was paying attention.
Yeah.
And and it was funny because I saw him during our show, and he was right in the audience digging it, right? And after the show, I was like, "You come here." Like, look, man, you play the audience with your eyes. You've got to work them. They've got to know who's in control. It's either going to be you or them, and you got to swing for the fences every single time. There's no exceptions, and you got to go out there and you got to give your very best every single night, and work the audience with your eyes. You're establishing communication. You're not up there just being a pretty guy and singing your songs so people will like you, because 9 times out of 10 they won't. You have to make them. You got to grab them by the you got to grab them by the short and curlies and bring them in for the experience. And that's what I would say. Just go out there, play as many gigs as you can. Especially when you're starting off, you might not get paid, but you know what? The experience will be invaluable, especially if it's a bad one.
Yeah, because I mean that does help you prepare for things. So I
Oh
do
Lord,
understand for
I
sure.
could tell you, I could tell you stories of so many terrible gigs, so many terrible gigs, and you know, but they all eventually are hilarious, and they all turn out to be learning experiences.
Yeah.
You
For
know,
me, I am an up and coming artist as well. I play the
no,
ukulele. I just started playing out here recently.
mhm.
And for me, I think the biggest piece of information that has came to me that has helped me so much in just getting over, the intimidation of being on stage and the fear of playing in front of people is that even people like Cowboy Mouth mess up.
Yeah,
Like
I
that
still screw up.
it's such a big like that is such a big thing that helped me to get over because you fear messing up. You fear the audience will know that you've messed up and that
Oh
they'll
yeah.
look at you and be like, this wasn't good. But yeah, just
There's footage of the
everybody
Beatles somewhere in 1964, and they're playing a song called "You Can't Do That," which is a great song, and they're playing it, and the lead guy, John Lennon, he thinks for some reason he forgets that there's a bridge to the song, and he just thinks the solo's coming. He's like, and then you see him look over, and the guys are like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What?"
oh, that's so like
And
not yet.
they get back to that moment, and they just go, because
I
that's all
love
you can
it.
really do. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've fallen on my face so many times it's not even funny. And you learn, and you have to learn, and you kind of have to take it with a sense of humor, because at the end of the day, nobody really cares. People are going to
True.
be like, "Oh, I can't believe you messed up the lyrics to that song. I shall never
Right.
watch you again." It's like, first of all, if somebody's going to be that way, they're probably not going to be there again anyway. And
That's
it's
true.
like some of the best moments I've ever seen a band's live was just you know of them screwing up but making it work for them and giving the
Yeah.
audience a truly unique moment. There's a Clash live album uh, that starts off with a really ragged version of one of their biggest songs, a song called Complete Control, and towards the end of the song the whole band loses it. They just lose it, and then through sheer force of will in the course of the song they they bring it up, and you
Yeah.
hear the lead singer, he doesn't sing the lyrics, he just goes up to the mic and goes, it's like, it's just that's the human experience all around. Those are the things we all go through, not just musicians, but every day, the people who deal with drudgery in and out every day at some point, sometimes you just gotta just you got to climb that mountain every day, man. You know.
Yep.
And
Well,
as
Fred,
far
this has
look,
been
as far as one thing I learned about performing that was actually between us, and you can cut this out if you want. When you look at people, you can look at people, but don't look directly at them in the eyes. Look at their forehead. They'll think you're looking straight at them,
yeah.
and you can interact like that, but you're looking at their foreheads. That's a little trick I learned.
Nice.
It's like, yeah, because if you look at somebody like this and they're just like, it might fuck with you. But if you
Yeah.
look at their foreheads and you can't see anything they're doing, then you're the one in control, because
Yeah.
you're not reacting to their reaction. They're reacting to you.
True story.
So yeah,
I think this is about to cut us off, so I wanted to let you know before I didn't want you to think I hung up on you.
that's all right then.
Fred, this has been an absolute joy talking to you today. I've had such a great time going over your music, your career, and what you guys have coming up. I just want to thank you again for sitting down with us. This has been Tippy with the Tippy Joe Show and the Barn Network. Right on.
St. Louis, hot summer. Anyway, yada yada.
Well, awesome, Fred. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thanks, Tip. Let's do it again sometime. This was
yeah,
fun.
for sure. Yeah. Hey, have a good show coming up.
You too, Ben.
Yeah, bye.